Het enneagram. Een onderwerp waar de laatste tijd veel over geschreven en gesproken wordt. En we gaan praten met Joanna Putnoi, een Amerikaanse die veel studie gemaakt heeft over dit onderwerp. Het enneagram is een systeem van persoonlijkheidsanalyse. Het werkt met 9 persoonlijkheidstypes, die gebaseerd zijn op 3 centra, 3 manieren van omgaan met die centra en dat leidt tot 9 types. Het enneagram is voortgekomen uit het werk van onder andere Gurdjieff en iemand die heet Oscar Icazo. En die heeft een wat andere interpretatie van het enneagram dan de meeste mensen die er nu boeken over schrijven, zoals Helen Palmer. We praten met Joanna Putnoi over hoe zij het enneagram uitlegt en ermee werkt. Er zijn een aantal boeken in het Nederlands verschenen over het enneagram. What is the enneagram?
It identifies 9 personality types by their habits of attention. And in identifying the way that people see the world, it also helps you to expand your view.
If I know what kind of enneagram type I am, does that help me?
Only if you're willing to work with the information that you're getting. The Enneagram identifies a particular way that we look at the world and that we're stuck in. And there's really nothing wrong with the way that you look at the world. The problem is that you think that I'm looking at the world from the same vantage point that you're looking at the world. So it's helpful to identify what it is that you see so that you can understand yourself. And then you understand that there are these other 8 perspectives that don't see the world from the same frame. In that way, I think it furthers communication. It furthers me being able to understand how it is that I organize my own view of the world.
Now, normally I noticed that there are 2 ways to look at the world. One is called female and the other way is male.
Yes.
They seem to be different, but what you're saying is that the enneagram gives you even more differentiation between points of view of people.
Yes, and I'd go so far as to say that I think that the Enneagram system is not so gender-based, that you would find that type 9, whether that person is a male or a female, would be more similar than if you met a type 8 man or a type, the type is not necessarily gender-based. It really is similar for men and women in each of the types. I don't know if I made that clear, but...
Again, what is the enneagram?
Okay. The Enneagram is a system that identifies...
Again, this is not to do it again, but we can start a new little sequence, but again by you explaining the enneagram from another point of view. So later in the edit, we get it. So I'm not trying to make you repeat
do it again. Just try another way.
Try another way.
Okay.
Yeah?
The Enneagram is a way to bust your own perspective. It's a humbling experience, at least it was for me, because I really thought I was an aware person and that I was seeing the world the way that the world functioned. And then, excuse me, when I started studying the Enneagram, I was humbled to find out that, in fact, my view was quite limited. That was interesting to me, and I've been studying it ever since, and also noticing how your view is limited. Not that I want to criticize you about it, but I'd really like to give you a few more lenses to look at the world out of.
So what you're saying is that there are like 9 different pairs of glasses with different colors?
Kind of, yes.
And so that every person, because of his growing up, has one kind of glasses?
Yes.
He looks at the world a rosy way, or a red way, or a blue way, whatever.
Yes.
And works from there.
Exactly.
And the Enneagram teaches us that there are other colors.
Yes, and also teaches us how to recognize when we go on automatic. There's a notion that the mind has the capacity to think 60,000 thoughts a day. That's extraordinary. The problem is we think the same 60,000 thoughts every day. So once you realize that you're caught in a particular repeating loop, then how can I break that pattern? And I think the Enneagram is one way to start busting your own repetitive habit so that you can look from another perspective.
Are you saying that if you look at a human being as a car that drives on the highway and sometimes it runs automatically and sometimes it makes a decision to go right or left, that there are different makes of cars. Some respond very fast, some are very stable, others are very afraid of the police.
Yes.
In fact, people are different like there are brands of cars.
Well, I've never met a car that's afraid of the police, but perhaps it's like that in Holland. They have cars that are afraid of the police.
No, that's not a good thing. Okay. What is the basis of the Enneagram?
Well, the basis is very ancient. In the last 30 years, it's been getting a psychological basis that is keyed into looking at different behavioral types that I think actually has a genetic component to it, and that in fact people come into the world more high-strung one from the other. The goal is, I think, to become self-aware, and the Enneagram is a map that shows us how to observe our own behavior from a more neutral position. If I observe my behavior from a critical place, like my mother observed my behavior, I don't enjoy myself very much. If I can learn to see with a less biased, opinionated in a less biased, opinionated way, then perhaps I can be more compassionate, I can make decisions from a better place, and my life doesn't feel so encumbered.
It sounds as if this theoretical model can be applied practically in your life by dealing with yourself and with other people.
I think it can. That it provides a simple tool that first says, observe yourself. Well, that's certainly not new. All of the great systems say that the first thing you have to do is become aware of your own process. And the Enneagram gives you a map.
It's a map of your psychological drive system. Of
Yes.
the motors that make you behave as you are.
Yes. But it also implies that to be human is to suffer, that there's something about life that damages us or that skewers our view in a particular way. And we mimic a kind of evolvement. We all don't want to be at the effect of our lower nature, so to speak, or all of us do things that we don't like about ourselves. And the Enneagram not only identifies why it is that you do that, but it gives you some ways to look at yourself, to have a goal, so that you can clear out this kind of habituated behavior and have a more aware way of working with yourself and the people that are around you.
Okay. Maybe it's good to briefly summarize what the Enneagram is. It says that your energy is in one of the three centers, gut, heart, or head. That you make a choice early in your life based on traumatic experience, how you behave, whether you're extrovert, introvert, or negating. And therefore, there's a choice of 9 personalities that you choose, which come with specific drives, passions, and other characteristics.
That I think the Enneagram fits in many different populations. I work with corporations, I work in the American prison system, and I also teach psychologists and somatic therapists at Esalen Institute. I've worked with screenplay writers and actors in...
What is somatic therapist?
Somatic is body-oriented therapy.
What we used to call body workers?
Well, it's different than just body workers because body work is mechanical work for the most part. Somatic work takes the mind process, the emotional process, as well as the physical form and works with the whole person. So if you're a somatic therapist, you'd start with the body. We'd say the mind is slippery, but the body doesn't lie. First, I try to lay out the theory of the system, and I do that with videotapes that I have of people who represent the various types. I also use clips from movies so that you can see and get a sense of what the types are. But ultimately, what I want to do is have an interchange with the people that are there so they can discover what type they are, and we can start to have a dialogue about how type assists them depending on what it is they're wanting. In the workplace, it's around decision-making and management skills. In the psychological setting, like at Esalen, people want to know more about how to work more deeply with their clients.
Ikazo was the man who brought this knowledge that comes way back from Sufis, which are Arab, Islamic mystics, to the West. And there are 9 types which are shortly described here.
Exercises that are quite easy that I can do with a large group, maybe 50 people, and it also works in a small group context. Mostly, the thing that is very touching to me about the Enneagram is that it provides a way for me to understand myself and then to try to put down my lens and walk over beside you and look at the world out of your eyes. And to me, that act is a very healing act, that I would be willing to do that, to see the world as you see it, rather than try to get you to see the world as I see it.
So in fact, if we go back to this idea of glasses with different colors, in the course you try to make people sometimes look through someone else's glasses to the world.
Yes, yes.
Now you talk about somatic work, about using the body in connection to the Enneagram. How do you proceed on that?
In the Enneagram, the 9 types are divided into 3 groups of 3. We call them the body-based types, the head-based types, and the heart-based types. And what I'm seeing is that these 3 different types of people organize their awareness around a particular type of perception. The mental types use thought as the way that they think about the world. They're usually quite visual. They are quick-minded, but they wouldn't necessarily reference sensation in their body for information about the way the world works. Whereas the body-based types are very aware of the placement of things in the corporal world. They will tell you how it is that physical phenomena affect the way we are. Well, the mental types don't care. You know, they aren't particularly noticing physical phenomena. They're more interested in ideas. Whereas the heart-based types are interested in emotion. They're the people that leap before they look. They feel the way through their lives. And each of these 3 types organizes in their body differently depending on the perceptual center that they use the most. And what they see is fine. It's just that if you can't feel your body, you might find that you keep making the same mistakes over and over again, or you're misunderstood in the same way over and over again. That all of us have these 3 centers. We might as well learn to use more of ourselves.
And you have exercises and body work that are specifically geared to us.
Yes, and to each of the centers, so that we could either work with, no matter what type you are, working with various exercises that would teach you how to organize your attention in your body versus in your mind, to tell the difference between thought and sensation and emotion. And then specifically to type, we can start to look in detail at what each of the types does and what kinds of exercises you can do to become more aware, to break out of your own particular box.
To lift a little bit of the secrecy on this, if a person is, for instance, very much concerned with their thoughts, with thinking, a mental type, what would you advise them to be a little bit more relaxed about this machine running? How could they stop the machine?
One way is to first of all notice that there's a difference between feeling like right now as you're sitting there, you can be thinking about what I'm saying to you, or you can feel your own body making contact with the floor. You can feel your breath come in through your mouth. You can organize and locate your attention sensorially and listen to what I'm saying at the same time. If you do that, you'll hear what I say differently than if you are only exist above the neck and you're trying to debate with me about whether what I'm saying fits into some kind of a logical progression of thoughts. That would be all right too. It would just be a different way.
So what you say is, if we change the placement of our attention, we change the perception itself.
Yes. There's a wonderful story of that Gurdjieff told, Gurdjieff, the great crazy philosopher, who knew something about the enneagram. He said, let's say you have an image of a horse and a buggy and a driver. And the horses represent the emotions, the driver represents the mind, and the carriage represents the body. So in the first picture, the horses are totally out of control, the driver is asleep at the wheel, and the carriage is just getting, banged up because these horses go tearing off the main road across the rocky terrain, and everyone's having a very hard time. That would be an example of a heart-based person whose mind was not working to try to help them contain their compulsion, let's say. The second picture, the driver has a whip. The horses are very well behaved. They haven't done anything in a long, long time. The carriage might be very pristine, whatever, but you get the picture that in this picture the driver has all the power. In the third picture, let's say the carriage is covered with jewels, or it's very, very delicate, or there's something about the carriage that makes the driver and the horses not be able to do what they want to do. So in each case, you see there's an asset and a deficit to being dominated by one of these three components. So Gurdjieff would say the joke is there's a passenger. And when the passenger wakes up, it is the job of the passenger to connect the horses to the driver, to the carriage, and then you have a ticket. Then you have a much higher functioning system, but the driver must be willing to be awake. You understand?
Yes, so then the driver, knowing the horse and the driver and the carriage, can direct them.
Yes, and can not be so at effect of their own emotions. It's like I've spoken to, let's say, a person who's very emotional, and they say, I don't know what it is, I just can't control my emotions. Well, partly it's because they haven't developed an observer inside themselves that understands that these emotions are dominant. Well, you just have to turn down the dial, but you have to learn where the dial is and be interested enough to run emotion through the body. As an example, where the body is a ground wire for emotion. If you learn how to let your body take on the feeling rather than stimulating feeling with your mind, which is what a lot of emotional people do, you'd have a different experience. You could you'd feel just as deeply, you just wouldn't be so out of control in the process.
Ja, dat was Joanna Putnoi over het enneagram.